You think you've seen everything about Epstein. You've seen the headlines, you've seen the documents, you've seen the names. But what if I told you that the most important parts of this story aren't in the documents at all? They're in the videos. And now new footage has surfaced, footage that adds even more questions to a case that already doesn't make sense. Because when you actually watch what is happening, when you see the behavior, when you hear the conversations, you start to realize something. The story is way deeper than most people understand. And today, we're breaking it all down. All right, so over the past few years, we're seeing a massive release of what everyone nowadays knows as the Epstein files. Emails, court documents, depositions, and yeah, those matter 100%. But here's the thing that most people are actually missing. Documents tell you what happened. Videos show you who someone really was. And that's what we're focusing on right here today. Because there's footage, some new, some overlooked, that paints a very different picture. Not just of Epstein, but of the system around him. Let's start with the footage that's getting the most attention right now. This is surveillance video from the night Epstein passed, August 10th, 2019, inside of one of the most secure federal facilities in the country. Now on paper, this should have been one of the most monitored inmates in the world. High profile, high risk, massive media attention. There's absolutely no scenario where this is supposed to go wrong, and yet it did. In this footage, you can see correctional officers just outside his cell. They're walking around, they're writing things down. At times they appear distracted, even casual or off task. And at first glance, nothing seems crazy. But once you understand the context, everything changes. Because those are the same officers that were later accused of not doing their jobs. They were supposed to be conducting regular checks every 30 minutes, ensuring that Epstein was alive, safe, and accounted for. But according to investigations, those checks weren't happening. Instead, reports suggest they were looking at random things online, shopping, scrolling through the news, and at one point, possibly asleep. Let that sink in for a second. The most high-profile inmate in the country, and the people responsible for watching him weren't watching him. And then there's another detail that makes this even harder to ignore. One of the officers was reportedly Googling Epstein during that time, less than an hour before his body was found. Think about that. You're guarding this man, and instead of physically checking on him, you're researching him on the internet. Now, officially, the ruling is that he did this to himself, and investigators say there's no credible evidence to prove otherwise. But when you combine the missed checks, the lack of supervision, the timing, it leaves a lot of people asking the same question: how does something like that happen? Now here's where things start to get unforgettable. Because beyond the prison footage, there's a collection of videos that show Epstein in a completely different environment. Private settings, casual conversations, moments where the camera is rolling, and he clearly doesn't think anything is wrong. There's one clip in particular where he's talking to two girls, and the way he's speaking, it's not just strange, it's revealing. He's making offhand comments, talking casually, even joking about something on his face, in a way that just seems completely disconnected from reality. And when you watch it, you don't just see a man talking, you see someone who's comfortable, too comfortable. And that's what makes this kind of footage so important, because it's not rehearsed, it's not filtered, it's just him. And it doesn't stop there. There are multiple clips showing groups of young females dancing, walking around, interacting with the camera. Some of it looks like modeling footage. Some of it looks staged even, and some of it just feels off. There are moments when the girls actually seem like they're having fun and feeling too comfortable. A lot of faces are blurred, a lot of details are redacted, and that's part of the problem. Because you're watching something, but you're not being given all of the full context. But even without context, you can feel it. The tone of these videos is not normal. When you remember what Epstein was accused of, it becomes a lot harder to ignore what you're looking at. Now let's talk about something else that keeps coming up. The people surrounding Epstein. There's footage of him interacting with well-known figures. One example shows him with Woody Allen. They're joking around, staging what looks like a photo. Nothing extreme on the surface, but again, context matters. And there are many instances where we know that Epstein and Woody Allen were together. They were actually quite good friends. But Epstein wasn't just some isolated individual. He was deeply connected to powerful people, influential people, people who had everything to lose. And yet, he was allowed in those circles over and over again. That's one of the biggest questions in this entire story. How did he maintain access? What exactly was he offering? And why did so many people stay connected to him? In my opinion, he had dirt on those people, things that were held over their head that kept them close and that kept him connected. Now the next part is subtle, but it's important. There's footage that appears to show apartment tours, and at first it seems absolutely normal. Just someone walking around a space, showing rooms, nothing unusual. But when you connect it to previous allegations, it takes on a different meaning. There were claims that Epstein would help secure apartments, co-sign leases, and honestly control where certain individuals lived. He was that security for them. In one case, a victim claimed that she was told she owed him money because he helped her get an apartment. So when you see the videos, you have to ask yourself, are those just tours, or are they part of something more structured, something more controlled, something that allowed him to control more people? Now let's get into something that I think is one of the most important parts of all of this: how Epstein viewed himself. There's interview footage where he talks about money, and not in a normal way. He basically suggests that world leaders don't understand finance, that they are highly intelligent people, but don't truly understand how money works. And then he positions himself as someone who does, someone that can help them. That's powerful, because that's not just confidence, that's positioning. If you can convince powerful people that you understand something that they don't, you become valuable. And that may explain a lot. Why he had access, why people trusted him, why he stayed in those close circles, and maybe in some cases, why people needed him. But then we get to the part that really stands out: his attitude toward jail. When he talks about being locked up, there's no emotion, no regret, no reflection. He treats it like it's just another situation, another room that he's in, almost like it doesn't matter. And that tells you a lot, because most people in that situation would be thinking about everything that they did wrong, but not Epstein. And then there's this conversation surrounding money, and whether it was dirty money. Instead of denying anything, he reframes it, puts it in a different light. He basically argues that if money is used to help people, then the source doesn't matter. And that's a dangerous mindset, because it justifies anything. He could have made that money in any way, clean or dirty, and as long as he's using some of it for a good cause, everything is okay. And I personally think that he convinced himself of that and actually felt that way, which made it easier for him to do. At one point, he's even compared to the devil, and instead of pushing back, he engages with it. And that moment may be one of the most revealing in the entire story.